There is something very touching about them. They look like soldiers, they fight like soldiers, and sometimes they even talk like soldiers. They have all the finest qualities of the fighting man, but behind that is nothing. No love, no family, no happy memory that comes from having truly lived. When I see one of these men killed, I weep more for him than for any ordinary soldier who has lived a full and normal life.
Jedi General Kai Arimundi.
Chapter 9. Darman had flattened Jennart's face against the wall and put his blaster to her head in the time it took Etain to jump to her feet.
Steady there, boy,
Jennart said quietly.
I mean you no harm.
He had her pinned securely. The expression on his earnest face was entirely benign, so far divorced from the potential violence he was ready to met out that Etain shuddered.
Let her go, Darman,
she said.
She's a fellow Jedi.
Darman stood back instantly and let Jennart go.
I'm not a Jedi, I tell you,
Jennart said irritably. She looked up into Darman's face.
So, you'd shoot an old woman, would ye?
Yes, ma'am, Darman said. Etain stared, horrified. Threats come in all guises. Not all soldiers are young males, and not all soldiers wear uniforms. Etain waited for Jennart to aim a kick at his groin, but the old woman broke into a satisfied grin.
There's a sensible boy,
she said.
You'll do well. Trust this one, Etain. He's very good at his job.
She peered at the blaster, still firmly in his grip.
DC-17, I see. There are 4 of them,
Etain said, expecting Jennart to react with the same disappointment she had.
I know.
The woman handed Etain a bundle of rags.
A complete squad of clone commandos. Here, dry clothing. Nothing chic, but at least it's clean. Yes, I know all about them. I've been tracking the other 3.
They're okay. Darman was all anxiety again, still emitting the same sense of child that Etain found hard to bear. I've got to rejoin them. Where are they?
Heading north.
To RV Gamma.
Whatever you say, lad. You've all led me on something of a dance. You're a challenge to track.
That's how they trained us, Mum.
I know.
Jennart was still staring at Darman's face.
You really are a perfect copy of Fett, aren't ye? In his prime, of course.
Her voice had become lower, with less of the hoarse cracking typical of the very old, and Etain wondered if this was the moment at which she would reveal that she was a Sith. The Padawan slid her hand slowly into her sodden cloak. Jennart suddenly became black as Coruscant marble, and then devoid of texture and hair and fabric and wrinkles, as if she were wax poured into a crude mold. Her form began flowing. Darman's incongruously innocent face broke into something like a familiar smile. Etain was ready this time. She was focused. She visualized the lightsaber as part of her arm. She was prepared to fight. "You're the Galanin," Darman said. "We weren't told you were on this mission. How did you manage that?"
I'm not Valaquil. I'm his consort.
Jennart, now a four-legged, black-furred creature, sat up on her haunches and seemed to simply extend upward like a column of molten metal.
Girl, you do look surprised.
Etain couldn't argue with that. Even if you'd encountered the full diversity of non-human species, and she certainly had, even within her own Jedi clan, seeing a shapeshifter metamorphose before your eyes was mesmerizing. On top of that, even this naive clone soldier knew what this creature was. She didn't.
You're quite a revelation, Jennart. But why can I sense something about you that feels
like the Force.
We're telepaths.
The Gurlanin said.
Oh. No, I'm not delving into your mind. It doesn't work like that. We communicate only with each other.
But I heard your voice that night, in my mind.
I was standing near you, actually. Not in any shape you'd recognize, of course.
And me, Mum? Darman asked, seeming totally absorbed by the conversation.
Yes. I told you to get some sleep. I make a convincing fallen tree, don't I?
Jennart flowed and changed and reassembled herself into the epitome of a crone again.
I know, stereotypical but effective. Old women are invisible, like you, Darman. We go where others won't, and do what others can't. The communications network here is totally controlled by the Trade Federation. And in practice, that means a single relay and monitoring ground station at Teklit. And while my kind cannot transmit details over interstellar distances, we can communicate broad ideas and notions to each other. My consort and I are your comlink. Not perfect, but better than silence.
The Gurlanin made a liquid sound like water boiling.
I've spent the last 2 days running myself ragged to gather this intelligence, and it's as much for this young man as it is for you. Gez Hoken now has command of the armed forces here, such as they are, and he's no fool. He realizes Republic troops are here for Uthon's box of tricks. Darman, he's tracking your comrades.
We're pretty good at evasion.
Yes, but they do tend to leave bodies and parts behind. He admits he doesn't know how many of you there are, and that troubles him.
You're privy to his concerns, then, Etain said. She trusted nobody now. She still didn't know who had betrayed Master Fullier, and until she did, she would keep an open and cautious mind. Although her master hadn't told her about the clones, he must have known if he discovered Uthon's activities, but he hadn't trusted her. For all his kind words, when it came down to it, he simply confirmed, even from the grave, that she was not fit to become a Jedi Knight.
I know Hoken's concerns because I can make a very convincing old man as well as an excellent grandmother,
Jennart said. The reply made no sense.
I'll catch up with Darman's comrades and try to direct them to somewhere safe. They have no reliable intel, as you call it, a finite amount of ordnance, and no advantage of surprise any longer. Hoken knows what you have come to do, and he has enough firepower and droids to stop you. That makes your mission next to impossible, without some change of plan or intervention.
Darman considered her carefully. Jennart's news hadn't dented that tangible confidence. Etain saw not a flicker on his face. It could be worse. I quite like the sound of a single transmitter.
Might I also add that the locals will turn you in for one chance to get disgustingly drunk?
Darman looked at Etain. She squirmed.
Out of ideas, soldier?
She asked. I await your orders, Commander. It was the final straw. Weeks of fear, hunger, and fatigue on top of years of doubt and disillusion suddenly brought Etain's fragile edifice crashing down. She had done all she could do, and there was nothing left in her to give.
Stop it! Stop calling me Commander!
She felt her nails dig into her palms.
I am not your blasted commander! I haven't a clue what to do next. You're on your own, Darman. You're the soldier. You come up with a plan.
Jennart said nothing. Etain felt her face burn. She had lost all dignity. A lifetime of careful training in the art of control and contemplation had come to nothing. Darman changed before her eyes. He transformed not in the physical sense that the Gurlanin had, but the change was just as startling, because the sense of the child that Etain detected so clearly simply evaporated. Its place was taken by calm resignation and something else, a rather forlorn feeling. She couldn't pin it down. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "I'll do that right away." Jennart jerked her head in the direction of the door.
Get some air, Darman. I need to talk to Commander Termukin.
Darman hesitated for a moment and then slipped outside. Jennart rounded on Etain.
"Listen to me, girl,"
she whispered, all harsh sibilants. Drops of fine saliva glittered briefly in the dim light.
"That soldier may think a Jedi's every word is a divine pronouncement, but I don't. You'd better sharpen up fast. The Commandos and I are all that stands between maintaining some kind of order in the galaxy and its fragmentation. Because if the clone army can be wiped out, then the Separatists will win. You can either help us or stand aside. But you will not be an obstacle. And that's what you are if you can't lead those men. They've been bred to obey Jedi without question. Sadly, in this case, that means you."
Etain was used to feeling worthless. There was no lower place that Jennart could cast her.
"I didn't ask for that responsibility." "And neither did Darman."
Jennart flashed back into a mass of seething black sinews for a terrifying second.
"That's the nature of duty. It calls you, and you give your all. He will. So will his comrades. Every single one of them. They need you to help them do their job." "I'm still learning how." "Then learn fast. If those soldiers weren't conditioned to obey you, I'd consider cutting you down now and have done with it. My kind have nothing to thank Jedi for. Nothing at all. But we share a common enemy. And I want to see Valaquil again. Think yourself lucky."
Jennart swept out. Etain sank down on her knees in the hay and wondered how she'd come to this. The barn door creaked open slowly, and Darman peered around.
"Don't mind me,"
she said. "You okay, Mum?" He winced visibly. "Apologies, Etain."
"You probably think I'm useless as well, don't you?"
"I came up with a plan, as you ordered."
"Bred for diplomacy too, eh?"
"If Hoken has set the facility as a decoy, then we need him to think that we believe it's still the genuine target. So we split?"
"I'll take that as a yes."
Darman lapsed into silence.
"I'm sorry," she said. "Carry on."
He knelt down, facing her, and swept the floor clear with his hand, creating a clear space on which to demonstrate something. He reached for some crusts of bread and a lump of insect-eaten wood. "What do you think I am?" he asked quietly.
"From what Jennart says, a clone soldier, bred to obey."
She watched him break the wood and the crusts into separate chunks and place them in a row like game pieces.
"No choice."
"But I do have a choice," he said. "A choice in how I interpret your orders. I'm intelligent. I've seen Jedi fight, so I know what you're capable of. Once you're exposed to situations that call on your skills, you'll be the same." He was all contradictions. She wondered for a moment if he wasn't a clone soldier at all, but another Gurlanin playing spiteful games with her. But she could feel a combination of quiet desperation and faith. Yes, faith. He was the only person in many years who had shown any degree of confidence in her, and the first since Master Fullier who had shown her real kindness.
Very well,
she said.
This is your overriding order. Whatever happens, you are to intervene if anything I do or say compromises your mission. No, don't look at me like that.
She held up her hand to stifle the protest she could see forming on his lips.
Think of me as a commander in training. You must train me. That might mean showing me the correct way to do things, or even saving me from my own lack of experience.
She could hardly bring herself to say it.
And that's an order.
He almost smiled. This is why I have confidence in obeying a Jedi commander. Your wisdom is unequaled. Etain had to think about that for a few seconds. If Jannard had said it, she would have seethed. Darman meant it, and perhaps he meant it in a number of ways. Yes, he was intelligent and subtle, not a droid at all. How did a 10-year-old get that way? Disturbed, she concentrated on the comfort of believing that he had seen things that she never had, and so knew best.
Go on,
she said.
You had a plan.